There's a lot in life that feels like it should be guaranteed but isn't. Like getting the same number of socks from the dryer that you put in, a pair of jeans still fitting, weather forecast, or an empty nest staying empty. AT&T is introducing a new guarantee you can count on, the AT&T Guarantee, offering connectivity that you can depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve, or they'll make it right. Visit att.com/guarantee to learn more. AT&T, connecting changes everything. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details.
A 911 call echoes through the streets of Hooks, Texas, marking a pivotal moment in the lives of a couple on the verge of marriage. A home is engulfed in flames, igniting a terrible tragedy. What could have caused this devastating fire? How could something so beautiful and promising turn so horribly wrong? What happened? And what happens when love becomes fatal? This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast with Heat of the Moment.
September 9th, 2013. It's early Monday morning in Hooks, Texas, a close-knit community of nearly 3,000, just 20 minutes from Texarkana.
Hooks is a small town, not really a lot to do.
If you really want to enjoy the nightlife or find something to do, then you're probably going to go over to Texarkana.
Hooks is just really a nice, quiet place to live.
But just before 2 a.m., while most of the city sleeps, Bowie County 911 receives a desperate call for help.
There's smoke everywhere. Please hurry.
The caller is 34-year-old Todrick Matthews.
Todrick is frantic, saying that the trailer is on fire and his fiance is inside.
The dispatcher directed Todrick if he could safely remove her from the home to go inside and pull her out of the house.
I'll try. Hold on.
The air is thick with smoke, but Todrick manages to pull his fiancée, 37-year-old Sonia Banks, out of the trailer.
When the authorities arrived on the scene, they did find him with her in the front of the house, providing CPR.
Over here! Hurry!
When the police officer took over, it was clear that the young lady had already passed on.
Sonia!
Texas native Sonia Banks was the epitome of Southern charm.
She was a loving, generous person and just a positive spirit. How was your day today?
She was very family-oriented. Her family was everything to her.
She was so kind-hearted. She never met a stranger.
Sonia's kind nature also served her well professionally.
Sonia went to cosmetology school, and she really had a love for doing hair.
She was very good at it, and she loved the social aspect of it too, getting to connect with her clients.
After cosmetology school, Sonia moved out of her hometown for the first time to pursue a job opportunity in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
She had some friends in Grand Rapids, so she was really looking forward to a new chapter in a bigger city.
She was really successful there and ended up staying for 8 years.
But there was always something missing.
Sonia was really close to her mom and honestly just really close to her family in general.
Love it. I love you, Mama. Love you too, baby.
She missed her family and decided to move back home to Texas.
Back in Hooks, Sonia started over.
She moved in with her mom.
She was able to land a job at a salon in Texarkana.
It is the central city for a large rural area. So there are a lot of people from an hour's drive away that come here.
She loved making her clients look good and feel good.
Sonia was living her dream. Now all she wanted was someone special to share it with.
She was ready to fall in love and find someone to settle down with and maybe start a family.
There There were some decent men in her past. She just hadn't found the one.
But that all changed after a chance encounter one night in the summer of 2012.
Sonia and Todrick were driving down I-30, and they both kind of exited off. It appeared that they caught each other's eye.
Hey!
He smiled and waved at her. Sonia smiled and waved at him back.
Do you normally flag down women at intersections?
Yeah, I just couldn't help myself. I'm Todrick.
Sonia.
They exchanged numbers, and it went from there.
She almost instantly felt like it was love at first sight. Todrick contacts her the next day, and she is excited to go out with him.
34-year-old Todrick Matthews invited Sonia over for dinner, and the two spent hours learning all about each other.
It turned out they had a lot in common. Todrick had also moved away from his hometown for a while because of work, but had recently moved back to the Hooks area to be closer to his family.
He'd grown up just across the border in Arkansas, about 30 minutes away from Hooks, and he had a brother in Texarkana.
Todrick had gotten a good job in the area working for a defense contractor.
Well, my mama still live out there, so it's good to be close to home.
They were really enjoying each other's company.
Todrick was charming, ambitious, and a family man. Sonia was excited to see where things would go.
And it didn't take long for their relationship to become serious.
Sonia lived with her mother. However, as her and Todrick continued dating, she lived more and more with him.
They were in love, and she was really happy.
They started discussing marriage and just spending the rest of their lives together.
I'll take over.
But instead, their promising future has gone up in smoke when Todrick's heroic efforts are not enough to save Sonia's life.
Todrick questions the first responders. Why are you putting that sheet over her?
One of the hardest parts of police work is the counseling part. This is their loved one, and they're not going to accept the fact that they're already dead.
When firefighters enter the trailer, there's little left for them to do.
There's a definite smell of smoke, but the trailer doesn't seem to be engulfed in any flames.
The fire seemed to have burned itself out.
To firefighters, it's clear where the fire started and how.
There was a large area in the bathroom and into the bedroom that was completely scorched.
There was a strong chemical smell coming from the room.
Did someone deliberately set this trailer on fire?
Brace yourself for more captivating revelations ahead. Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
Hey all, I'm Jamie Lynn Sigler, a mom, actor, and advocate. I know how overwhelming it can be trying to decide which treatment is right for you. I've been there. But you should know you're not alone. You can do this. Start with some research, talk to the community, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. You might find results that speak for themselves. That's how I landed on Kesimpta. Ask your doctor if Kesimpta, ofatumumab, could be right for you. You can check out the details at kesimpta.com.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
After returning to her hometown and finding her dream job, Sonia Banks had also found love with a man named Todrick Matthews.
It was a match made in heaven.
Todrick and Sonia were inseparable.
But now Sonia is dead, and Todrick's trailer is damaged by what appears to be arson.
Firefighters at the scene smell some sort of accelerant.
They cleared the house and make sure there was no possible way for a fire to be able to start again.
As firefighters finish inside the trailer, officers secure the scene and call in reinforcements.
After removing Todrick from the scene, police officers on site put up crime scene tape.
The officer's job at that point is basically to assist in securing the crime scene and let the detectives do their job.
As detectives from the sheriff's department arrive at the scene, they're not entirely sure what type of crime they're dealing with yet.
There were no visible signs of injury on Sonia, so if she had died of smoke inhalation, it's possible this was just a horrible accident.
But if the fire was intentional, who had started it?
Officers relayed to detectives that the fire had been concentrated at the bathroom door and into the bedroom, which is the same area where Todrick reported finding Sonia.
Could this be a possible suicide?
Detectives had to consider if she had locked herself in the bathroom to take her own life.
But when detectives make their way into the trailer, they discover evidence to contradict that theory.
They do find some footprints near the back door.
It's a footprint right there.
Todrick had reported going through the front door to get to Sonia, so he was nowhere near the back door at that time.
Someone else had been inside the trailer.
Finding the footprint at the back door really stood out.
They believe whoever may have set the fire may have fled out of the back door.
Following the suspect's trail, detectives find more proof that this was no accident.
In the yard, the detectives find an empty can of sterno.
Sterno is a gel-like fuel that burns slowly and at a much lower temperature than accelerants like gasoline, kerosene, or lighter fluid.
So that may have been the reason the fire burned itself out.
We got to get photos of that right there.
As for why someone might set the fire, to detectives, one reason seems clear.
It's pretty obvious that somebody did it to destroy some evidence.
The fire is going to make the crime scene just a big mess.
If Sonia's death was a homicide, a fire in the trailer would make the investigation much more difficult.
But it will be up to the medical examiner to determine the cause of death.
If Sonia was alive when the fire started, the medical examiner should see evidence of smoke in her lungs.
With a county coroner on the way and CSIs combing through possible evidence, detectives are able to shift their focus to their only witness, Todrick.
They took him to the interview room just to ask questions or, what they were doing and on this date at this time, when was the last time they had contact.
Todrick told detectives that he and Sonia had a pretty normal Sunday.
They went to church, they went to lunch, and they also went and did a little shopping.
And that evening, we picked up Sonia's mom, then we headed back to church.
After church, they went to relatives of Sonia's to have dinner, and then they dropped Sonia's mom off at home.
He says they got home around 10 p.m.
But according to Todrick, his night didn't end there.
It was late, and my brother had been on my case for a few days to hang out.
He says he'd driven over to his brother's place in Texarkana around 10:30.
He tells detectives he picks his brother up and they roll around for a few hours.
What's up, bro? Did y'all go anywhere? We stopped for gas. That's pretty much it.
According to Todrick, his brother really wanted to go to the club that night, but Todrick wasn't really feeling it, so he dropped his brother back off at his apartment and he headed back home.
What time? 1:30, maybe a little later. I was pretty beat, so I headed straight home afterwards.
When he arrived back home, he found it full of smoke.
Hey, I think there's a fire at my house.
He said he called 911, and when he went inside to get Sonia, he found her unconscious in the bathroom.
They know the 911 call came in just after 2 a.m. So if Todrick's telling the truth, he wouldn't have had enough time to get home, murder Sonia, start the fire, then call 911.
And if Todrick didn't do it, who did?
When the detectives asked, did he know anyone that would want to kill Sonia, he said he didn't know.
But then, Todrick says something that could change the course of the entire investigation.
Todrick informed the detectives that he kept a substantial amount of money in the trailer.
Where? I got a safe in the back of the closet.
According to Todrick, there was about $9,000 in the safe.
What are you doing with all that cash?
Todrick had a side hustle selling weed.
Could the target have been the safe and Sonia was just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Did love turn into obsession? Stay with us as the web of deception becomes increasingly intricate, teetering on the edge of disaster. Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
Detectives investigating the death of Sonia Banks have just learned that her fiancé, Todrick Matthews, kept a safe full of cash hidden in his trailer.
Todrick tells detectives that the safe was in the closet in the master bedroom.
And there's $9,000 in there.
Yeah.
What are you doing with all that cash?
Well,
Todrick admits to detectives that he does deal a little bit of weed on the side.
Was the money still there?
I don't know. I just grabbed Sonia and got out of there.
I'm gonna go check this out.
Could Sonia's death be the result of a botched robbery?
The detectives get in contact with the CSIs on the scene, and they inform them that there is no safe in the closet and there's no safe anywhere found in the trailer.
It's gone.
I knew it.
According to Todrick, the safe was pretty small, so it appears that the killer could have easily walked away with it.
Could the target have been the safe and Sonia was just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
If we need anything, we'll be in touch.
After talking to Todrick, detectives contact his brother, James, who agrees to come in and give a statement.
So, thanks for coming in and talk to us.
It's no problem.
James is very cooperative with the detectives.
He was just really nonchalant about the situation.
He says that Todrick drove over to the apartment and picked him up about 10:30 that night.
James' timeline matched what Todrick had told detectives.
So where'd you guys go?
I mean, nowhere really.
He tells them they just rode around the town.
And then they stopped at a parking lot to hang out at a club called the Big Easy.
But you didn't go in?
Nah.
He said Todrick wasn't really feeling it that night.
So why go over there at all?
Well, it's one of Todd's spots, you know?
Detectives did press James, and he did inform them that they did go there to, sell someone some weed.
After the club, James says Todrick had driven him home.
The two did stop for gas, and Todrick dropped him back off at his apartment about 1:30 that morning.
However, James says that wasn't the last time he spoke to Todrick that night.
He says that Todrick called him twice, once around 2 a.m. to tell him that the trailer was full of smoke, and the second time about 15 minutes later saying that he pulled Sonia out and she was messed up.
He even shows detectives his call logs, and they're able to confirm that those calls did come in at the time that he said that they came in.
So far, Todrick's accounts of his moves that night appeared to check out.
Although, just to be sure, detectives checked the surveillance footage from the gas station where James and Todrick claimed to have stopped that night.
Detectives were able to speak to the owners of the convenience store who had no problem handing the video over to them.
The surveillance footage appears to further confirm Todrick's alibi.
The footage shows Todrick and his brother at the store at 1:15 that morning.
There was no way Todrick would have had time to get his brother home, get back to his trailer, kill Sonia, start a fire, and call 911 by 2 o'clock.
Hoping for a new lead, detectives head back to the scene to speak with Todrick's neighbors.
The detectives canvassed the neighborhood and talked to neighbors to see if anybody heard or seen anything that night.
Hey, you live around here?
But according to neighbors, there had been no unusual activity that night.
No one said that they heard anything.
By all accounts, it was just an ordinary night.
The only excitement anyone saw was officers and firefighters responding to Todrick's call.
All right.
The canvas a dead end. Detectives turned to Sonia's mother.
They started gently asking her to walk them through that Sunday.
She did confirm that Todrick and Sonia dropped her off at home after church that evening.
And when asked about Sonia's relationship with Todrick, her mother has only good things to say.
We all love Todrick. He's been really good to my girl.
She's also quick to offer detectives another name.
When detectives asked Sonia's mom if they knew anyone that may want to hurt Sonia, she recommended they talk to a man named Byron Ellis.
She states that that boy has been trying to get Sonia ever since she moved back to town.
Honestly, he's been obsessed with Sonia for a really long time.
I would never hurt Sonia.
Stay tuned for more as the truth is uncovered.
Hey all, I'm Jamie Lynn Sigler, a mom, actor, and advocate. I know how overwhelming it can be trying to decide which treatment is right for you. I've been there. But you should know you're not alone. You can do this. Start with some research, talk to the community, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. You might find results that speak for themselves. That's how I landed on Kesimpta. Ask your doctor if Kesimpta, ofatumumab, could be right for you. You can check out the details at kesimpta.com.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Detectives investigating Sonia Banks' death have just learned from her mother that a man named Byron Ellis has been infatuated with her daughter for a long time.
Byron and Sonia went to high school together, and Byron always seemed to have a bit of a crush on Sonia.
But Sonia just wasn't into him in that way. She looked at him more like a friend.
But according to Sonia's mother, Byron had never stopped carrying a torch for her daughter.
When Sonia moved back from Michigan, Byron believed that that was really his chance to connect back with her.
This was his opportunity to pursue something further.
He asked Sonia out several times.
He said he would never stop until she said yes.
Sonia's mother tells detectives that her daughter had eventually relented.
She finally agreed to go to lunch with him, but nothing really ever came from that. He still ended up in the friend zone.
In the meantime, Sonia started dating Todrick.
Maybe he'd gone to confront Sonia, declare his love, and things got out of hand.
You often see situations where there is one party who is overly obsessed with the other party and the lines blur and love turns to obsession. That's when things could ultimately end up very dangerous.
If Sonia had rejected him again, that could have been enough to push Byron over the edge.
After talking to Sonia's mother, detectives ask Byron to come to the station for an interview.
What's this all about? You know Sonia Banks? Yeah. Is she in any trouble?
When they inform him of Sonia's death, he seems genuinely saddened by the passing.
What?
When detectives asked about their friendship, he doesn't deny that he always had a thing for Sonia.
He also admits that he did try to ask Sonia out when she returned home, but she just wasn't into him.
Why'd you keep after her?
Wishful thinking, I guess.
He said that he hoped that Sonia would eventually come around.
But instead, she'd started seeing Todrick.
Byron tells detectives that he just really didn't see what she seen in him.
Byron said he'd even tried to warn Sonia about him.
Why's that? Todrick, man, he's nothing but trouble.
Byron describes Todrick as a very violent man.
In fact, Byron claims he saw it firsthand.
Not long after Sonia and Todrick started dating, Todrick came to Byron's job and threatened him.
He told me to stay away from her. And did you? What do you mean?
When detectives asked Byron, did he have anything to do with Sonia's death, he adamantly denies it.
I would never hurt Sonia.
Detectives asked him where he was that night of the murder. He says that he was working the third shift.
If I need anything else, I'll give you a call.
Once they're finished talking to Byron, detectives follow up with his workplace.
His timesheets do show that he was at work that night.
Timesheets can be falsified, so they did verify with his supervisor that he was in fact at work.
Byron's alibi had checked out.
But while it's clear that Byron couldn't have had anything to do with Sonia's death, when the detectives received the results of her autopsy, they proved without a doubt that she had been murdered.
Sonia was already dead when the fire was set.
It was not smoke inhalation. There was no smoke in her lungs.
And she had no elevated carbon monoxide levels.
Instead, the autopsy finds evidence of abrasions and contusions around Sonia's neck.
The medical examiner listed her cause of death as strangulation.
Not only was Sonia strangled, there was blunt force trauma to the head.
It was more than enough to rule her death a homicide.
But even with proof that they were in the middle of a murder investigation, detectives are no closer to naming a suspect.
With all of their primary persons of interest alibied out, the investigation had hit a dead end.
Homicide.
Until they receive an unexpected call from a woman named Renee Chandler.
Renee explains that Sonia started out as her hairdresser, but they became really close, and Sonia and her confided in each other.
It's Renee.
And what Renee tells them creates more questions than answers.
Renee reveals to detectives that Sonia has been assaulted before by Todrick.
She even saw the bruises on her neck.
Brace yourself for more captivating revelations ahead. Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
Hey all, I'm Jamie Lynn Sigler, a mom, actor, and advocate. I know how overwhelming it can be trying to decide which treatment is right for you. I've been there. But you should know you're not alone. You can do this. Start with some research, talk to the community, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. You might find results that speak for themselves. That's how I landed on Kesimpta. Ask your doctor if Kesimpta, ofatumumab, could be right for you. You can check out the details at kesimpta.com.
The Quarter Pounder with cheese has many great things. Maple-flavored griddle cakes isn't one of them. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Detectives investigating the murder of Sonia Banks have just learned from her friend, Renee Chandler, that she was being abused by her boyfriend, Todrick Matthews.
Sonia claimed that Todrick had strangled her. Renee even saw the bruises on her neck.
That was particularly interesting to detectives since Sonia had been strangled.
So detectives asked Renee to start at the beginning.
Renee stated that Sonia and Todrick's relationship started off well enough.
But she says that over time, Todrick began to change.
I saw you texting him the other night.
So what does that mean?
What does that mean?
She tells detectives that Todrick became extremely jealous and possessive.
When it comes to people being in abusive relationships, if you don't stop it at the beginning, it'll just keep building.
She says that Todrick will call her repeatedly at the salon and even come by to keep an eye on Sonia.
And the more possessive Todrick was of Sonia, the more paranoid he became.
He don't need to be texting you at night.
He thought that Sonia was seeing other people behind his back.
You got insecurity.
Sonia was taking that as a pretty telltale sign to, get out soon.
Renee says that's when Sonia started trying to distance herself from Todrick.
That's where things can become dangerous.
Sonia started becoming more reluctant to sleep with Todrick and even stay at his trailer.
She said like every time he would ask for sex, she would like fake like she was asleep or, try to find a way of, not doing it.
According to Renee, it got so bad that there were days when Sonia didn't want to be left alone.
Sonia often asked Renee to come to the salon and hang out, just in case Todrick stopped by.
Renee says the last time that Sonia asked her to come by the salon was the Saturday before her murder.
Sonia said that her and Todrick spent the entire day arguing.
But it's what Sonia said next that gave Renee chills.
Sonia said if she ended up dead, Todrick would be the killer.
It's an explosive statement, but is it true? In order to corroborate Renee's story, detectives subpoena Todrick's cell phone records.
The records seemed to confirm Renee's story. Todrick had made a ton of calls to the salon that day.
There was even text messages between the two where Todrick was begging for sex and Sonia seemed to try to distance herself.
But there are two text messages in particular that give detectives pause.
Todrick, on the night of the murder, sends text messages to Sonia while he is with his brother. Two of the text messages, he's asking her to call him. The last text message, he just says, never mind.
They're not sure if the text meant Todrick had no idea Sonia was dead or if he was somehow trying to cover his tracks.
The medical examiner could only give a window of when the murder could have occurred, so it's entirely possible that Todrick killed Sonia and then went out with his brother to give himself an alibi.
The phone record's inconclusive. Detectives turn to Todrick's criminal record.
And they reveal a history of domestic violence. Back in 2009, he was arrested for assaulting his then wife.
According to the incident report, she claimed Todrick punched her in the stomach and choked her until she couldn't breathe.
She also reported that Todrick put a gun to her head and pulled the trigger, but the gun didn't go off.
She said that Todrick told her that there was only one bullet in the gun, and next time, she might not get so lucky.
Hoping to learn more about Todrick's history, detectives reach out to his ex-wife in Dallas.
Detectives are anxious to get more information from her because she could be a very powerful witness against Todrick.
But only if she's willing to cooperate.
She tells detectives that her and Todrick had made up and moved past this, and she was reluctant to give them any more information.
Detectives are sure Todrick is responsible for Sonia's death. But with his ex-wife another dead end, they have run out of options.
Essentially, all detectives had at that point was a theory. Any evidence they had was purely circumstantial.
Detectives don't have any direct evidence or any witnesses to implicate Todrick in the murder, so they don't have the ability to charge him.
You definitely don't want to bring it to trial before you think you have enough evidence for conviction. Because of double jeopardy, if they bring it to trial too early and the person gets found not guilty, then they're off the hook for life.
So it was important for the DA and the investigators to make sure that they had enough of a case that reasonable doubt could be overcome.
In the meantime, Todrick moves on with his life.
Todrick leaves town and moves back to Dallas.
The DFW Metroplex is a much bigger community than Texarkana. And if you're living in Texarkana and people believe that you may have murdered someone, you know, those rumor mills are gonna weigh on him heavier than they would in a big city.
Back in Hooks, the investigation into Sonia's murder grows colder.
A lot of cases of murder turn cold because you've investigated every avenue that you feel like you possibly can.
It does wear on you. You still have the family looking for closure, asking, have y'all found anything new? Or what's going on with this case now?
It adds another level of heartache and grief for the family because they want to get answers.
Family members get upset with the police and the prosecutor's office because they haven't brought a case to trial yet, and the family thinks they should.
But sometimes, all police and prosecutors can do is wait.
Murder cases are never closed, no matter how cold.
The case is on the back burner, and you move on to do another thing, but it's never closed.
Then, in May of 2018, detectives finally get the break they've waited nearly 5 years for.
Out of nowhere, Todrick's brother James reached out to detectives.
He admits that he didn't tell them everything about the night of the murder.
This could change everything.
I can't live like this.
Stay tuned for more as the truth is uncovered.
After almost 5 years with no new leads, Todrick Matthews' brother James has just revealed to detectives that he wasn't entirely upfront with them about the night Sonia Banks was killed.
This is a big deal. James is a key to Todrick's alibi the night of the murder.
If James was lying about that night, it could be the evidence they've needed to arrest Todrick.
Detectives ask James to come in and make a new statement.
I know I should have said something sooner. This is just really tough.
Take your time.
When you're holding something so deep and, so serious, it begins to overwhelm you.
James begins by saying that he hadn't been expecting Todrick to come by his place the night of September 8th, 2013.
Now, initially, he didn't think this was unusual.
He was just like that. He would just drop by whenever.
But unbeknownst to James, Todrick did have a reason for coming by.
While driving around that night, Todrick stopped and disposed of items in the bed of his truck.
James said he didn't know what Todrick was getting rid of or why.
But when James asked Todrick what was going on, his answer was disturbing.
James told detectives that his brother confessed to killing Sonia.
He said that he actually killed her.
Yeah, he said he squeezed her until he knew she was dead.
James also tells detectives he'd lied about the phone conversations he had with Todrick on the night of the murder.
He says that Todrick never mentioned anything about a fire.
In James's initial story, he said that Todrick had called him in a panic because he'd gotten home and found the trailer full of smoke.
Why did you wait 5 years to tell us this? You don't know my brother, man.
He expressed that he was so afraid of Todrick that at times he had even moved out of his apartment into a motel.
What's changed?
I can't live like this.
And on May 24th, 2018, detectives finally have enough to arrest Todrick for Sonia's murder.
Almost 5 years later, Sonia's family finally gets a shot at justice.
When Todrick goes on trial in March of 2019, the prosecutors portray him as a violent and jealous man who was unwilling to let Sonia go.
The prosecutors depend on Renee's testimony that Sonia was about to break things off with Todrick, and he became extremely possessive.
Those types of statements were coupled with the fact that his brother was afraid of him.
Then, prosecutors used James' statement and the forensic evidence to reconstruct how Sonia died.
The prosecutors contend that after they had arrived home from church later on that night, that they had got into some type of argument.
Where do you think you going?
I'm going to Mama's. I can't do this with you right now.
Oh, hell no. You ain't going nowhere.
To Todrick, at that point, it was simply a case of, if I can't have you, no one can.
He just flew into a rage.
Todrick strangled and killed Sonia.
Once Todrick realized what he had done, he put Sonia in the bathroom, spread the sterno around the room, and lit it on fire.
Maybe he thought using the sterno would give him time to get out of there before the trailer went up in flames, because he even changed his shirt before he left.
Then, leaving the fire to spread, he got into his truck and drove away.
Todrick arrives to his brother's house to establish an alibi.
Only things hadn't gone as planned.
When Todrick comes home, and to his surprise, everything is not engulfed in flames, he calls 911 and makes up this story about money in a stolen safe.
Detectives weren't sure there was even a safe in the trailer to begin with.
The defense argues that much of the prosecution's theory is mere speculation. But will the jury agree?
After more than 5 hours of deliberating, the jury fined Todrick guilty of Sonia's murder.
Todrick Matthews is sentenced to life in prison.
Todrick will remain behind bars for the rest of his life. But that doesn't change the fact that what he's taken from the world can't be replaced.
Justice was served in the instance that he didn't get away with this. He was convicted, but this family has to live without their loved one for the rest of their lives.
No amount of money, nothing that they would ever be able to do would suffice the loss of her.
It's also a tragic lesson on the possible fate of unchecked domestic violence.
The biggest takeaway is definitely when you're involved with someone to really pay attention to the details.
There is a very big difference between love and obsession. If you are in a relationship with someone and you believe that you were in love, love is going to change you for the better. Love is not going to isolate you from your family. Love is not going to take away from you. Love is going to bring more life into you.
When it comes to love, unchecked emotions like jealousy, deceit, and possessiveness can sometimes lead to unimaginable tragedy. In a heartbreaking turn of events, the vibrant life of beloved Sonia Banks, known for her warmth and kindness, was abruptly extinguished. Sonia Banks was a talented hairstylist and a beacon of joy in her community, embodying the essence of Southern hospitality. Her radiant spirit will be remembered by all who knew and loved her.
Abuse is never okay. If you or someone you love is in an abusive relationship, there is help available. Call the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE.
Coming up on the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
She was a dedicated young woman making all the right moves.
She was just very vibrant, ambitious.
She was giving a managerial position. That takes a lot of trust.
And her personal life was taking off at the same time as her professional one.
She had a new job, a new man.
He's charming. He's charismatic. He is everything you need.
But when she mysteriously disappears, her bright future is at risk of being snuffed out.
A faithful and loving young woman poised for greatness with a blossoming career and a new relationship experiences a sudden and shocking twist of fate that changes her life, leaving ripples of shock through her tight-knit family and community. Tune in to the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast. We will see you in the next episode.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.